You saw what happened over the weekend on Saturday. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction is that a couple things. One, we have to protect our LGBTQ plus community here. We also have to protect the rights for those for free speech. But we also have to get down to the bottom of how things transpired. Was there third actors? What were their roles? How can we make everything safe for protesters and counter-protesters?
Do you think that's clear at this point? I was in court yesterday and there were just allegations about assault of police officers, but it wasn't necessarily clear what led up to that.
I don't have the details. I know, as the mayor kind of pointed to in his statement, this point about third actors, as I'm describing it. So I don't have the details on that, but that is definitely something that we need to get to the bottom of because it's important in terms of how things transpired on Saturday.
Are you concerned at all that police may not have been ready for this kind of back and forth between those two groups?
This is, the mayor again mentioned, an after action report. Lessons learned, as I say, and I've already asked the executive for that when it's ready because it's important. That and the demonstrations that happened at the convention center last week. We need to take these two instances, look at what we did with the crowd management bill, the less lethal weapons bill, and see where we are with the policies and are we ready moving forward.
I know the union, the guild, has said they were put into a political quagmire here. Do you see that the same way?
No, I don't. And this is where we have to get to the facts, but I don't. Hey, we have to have the ability to have protests and then the counter protests. Each should be respecting the other's ability and right to do so. And then the police, with the POET program, with their improved communications program, needs to be communicating. And then for those parties to be respecting the police too, in terms of keeping distance and the like. And that's going to be a factor there too, in terms of respecting the direction in order for both sides to be able to do their protests. And then the third actor point, those may be intended to creating and inciting violence. That needs to be addressed, and that's, one of the things that always comes out, the first reports are always generally wrong or incomplete. We need to have a full accounting of what happened and understand that, so then we can be smart in terms of the policies that, like, for example, SPD has.
And I know Councilmember Moore just addressed this over the weekend. The mayor had released a statement questioning why that group was granted a permit, meaning the Shea group granted a permit to hold a rally there. I know the Parks Department told me yesterday that they were, because of the size and the logistics, that was a place that they had asked to hold the rally and were granted the permit. So the city did grant the permit there. Do you have any questions from where you stand about just the permitting process here?
I believe in the group's ability to protest and to come and protest. To be blunt, it was a mistake to grant it at Cal Anderson Park. It was a mistake. There's many parks, there's many locations that could have accommodated the group. Cal Anderson should not have been on that list. For all the obvious reasons, the tie-ins with the LGBTQ plus community, and the obvious, kind of tweaking and inciting of that location, the ask for that location. We should not have approved that location.
The Parks Department should not have granted that permit. You're saying that was a mistake?
Granting the permit to protest, yes. Cal Anderson, that was the mistake.
I would be a bad reporter if I didn't ask you about what you just heard in here in terms of policing and numbers and September 2020 versus March of 2025. What do those numbers tell you about staffing in the police department?
It shows that we're going in the right direction, but important, we just can't look at the numbers. This goes to my point about expectation management. We're having improvement. But you know what? It takes time for that to show up on our streets, A. And B, for the specific types, the patrols, the bike cops, those kinds of elements that can really improve the everyday Seattleites' public safety posture, how they feel in terms of the perceptions of public safety and the like. And so we're definitely making positive progress with all the work that we've done, particularly over the last year and a half, but somewhat a little bit before that as well. And that is starting to make a difference. The challenge is, and I mentioned this today, is that bridging, getting from this improved numbers of applications and bringing on officers to really making a difference on our public safety front. And really, not just for downtown and the specific hotspots around this area or in other parts of the city where the CID, Aurora, and the like, but for all neighborhoods in the city.
I mean, patrol numbers, that's still a third short of September of 2020.
Yes, this is, as I noted in the committee meeting, the patrol numbers are very important, but there's other groups that are very important too, like the CRG and the like. So yes, we need to do better across the board, and we're moving in that direction, and we need to be smart in terms of how we present this, because what we cannot do is create false expectations in terms of timeline. Expectation management is so key. We're definitely moving in the direction, but we're in this bridging moment right now.
Okay, one last question, and it just came to mind back on the park situation, since you said that permit should not have been granted there. The mayor has been receiving some heat over describing that group as a right-wing group, and that they chose that park with the idea of creating some sort of tension. I'm paraphrasing his statement from Saturday. Do you believe the same thing, that was a group that's a right-wing group that specifically chose Cal Anderson Park to raise some sort of conflict?
It is a group that has a position against elements, basically our LGBTQ plus community, and so from that perspective, one can say right-wing. I don't know the group, so I'm not going to characterize it beyond that, but clearly they were looking to antagonize by asking for and then receiving the Cal Anderson Park location, and that was intentional. And I think you can have your First Amendment rights, but then we can do it in a respectful way. And this is across the board. Protest, but be respectful. And I think that piece to it was unfortunate, and it was unfortunate that Cal Anderson as a location was given.
So it does sound like you and other council members are asking specifically the Parks Department what was behind that decision.
Those questions have already been asked.
Have they been answered?
No.